So, a few things happened this week. First of all, WotC announced they're going to be at PAX Unplugged this weekend, and they're giving a panel, which you can watch live if you're not there, Friday, December 1st, from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern, 50 years of D&D adventures with Jeremy Crawford, Amanda Hammond, Chris Perkins, and James Wyatt. I'm actually going to go there. We're both good friends with Amanda, so hopefully get to talk to her. But hopefully they're going to also maybe start giving out some information about D&D 2024, because it's going to be 2024 in about a month. So they're going to start at least telling us when this thing comes out. But then strangely, they also came out with D&D Unearthed Arcana Playtest number 8, where they had big changes to the monks and barbarians and druids. But like the monk was completely rewritten. And I'm like, dude, it's freaking December. When are you guys actually finishing this playtest stuff?
They even said that they weren't going to do any more major changes, I think, after September or something like that. But I mean, the changes to the monk, I think, from what I've seen, look like a lot of them were good changes to the monk. But it's just surprising that
completely redone.
It happened after they said they weren't going to do it.
Yeah. My question was, thinking about this, is that we just went through the Pathfinder remaster. And the Pathfinder remaster had a very clear purpose, is that they were coming out with a version of Pathfinder that completely divorced themselves from the OGL and D&D. Fine, that made sense. Pathfinder 2nd Edition was a completely new version of Pathfinder, which Mark will be able to talk to in incredible detail since he co-wrote it and was there when it happened. He was literally in the room when it happened, so he could talk about this and what the purpose of coming out with a new version of a game was. And all the other prior versions of Dungeons & Dragons, whether you love them or hate them, were very different from one another, which makes me think, what the heck is the point of D&D 2024? Because it's not a new version of D&D. It works with 5th edition, yet it is a new version, and yet it's got new rules, but it doesn't have new rules. Like, what the heck is this thing? I can't figure out who is the audience for this game. What is the point? Why even come out with it if it's not doing anything new? But if it is doing something new, then how will it work with 5th edition? I mean, it's just all over the place, and I just don't understand who this game is for exactly.
I feel like we got like half of a plan that they had, developed, and that it seemed like that master plan maybe had something fall through earlier on this year that they weren't expecting to fall through. And as a result, it kind of feels directionless at this point, where, I mean, so there's TTRPG systems that do remasters. Like they do these, like, here's an update to the core rulebook. That happens.
Pathfinder just did a remaster. They had to get rid of OGL.
Yeah. I whenever I walked by Mongoose Publishing's booth at Gen Con, Traveler just got an update, right? Like, so it's not like this is the kind of thing that's like unheard of in the industry, except for with Wizards of the Coast, apparently. So like they could be doing an update, which, I mean, I guess, I don't know, it's always subjective, but at least from what I've seen on my side of the internet, it seems that most people just kind of wanted lights, like rules shifting, not like an overhaul of a core. A lot of people were happy with 5e existing as the way that it was existing, except there were some notable problems that we had with things like Moon Druid, just absolutely breaking the game in half, So I think a lot of people were trying to find some areas where we could, like, let's get Monk to a more optimal state. Let's, do some quality of life changes, not these crazy overhauls. And it, like, because there is an overhaul happening. There's as much as they want to say that this new thing is going to be compatible, it's just not. You can't play a Necromancer Wizard apparently with the new 2024 Wizard. Like, they're not going in a more compatible direction here. And I honestly think a lot of it was they were banking on the OGL not making it through 2023.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually answer my own question, and then I'll let Mark and you guys talk more. The secret was they came out with a new edition for the wrong reason. They came out with a new edition to control the market, come up with monopoly, and we know this because way back when they wanted to purchase D&D Beyond, and D&D Beyond was, now this is rumor, but I've heard it from many, many, many sources that I trust, is that they wanted to buy D&D Beyond because the future was digital and D&D Beyond had a, you know, stranglehold on the Dungeons and Dragons market. And they said, "Oh, we'd like to buy it." And they said, "No, why would we sell it to you? We're printing money." And they looked at their license and said, "Well, it says here that you can print and have basically you have the ability to reprint 5th edition forever, but we'll just make a new edition. And then we're not going to give you the license. Will you sell to us now?" And that's literally why they did a new edition, is just to buy Dungeons D&D Beyond. That's it. That's the reason they did a new edition. Not because they wanted to change the game, not what they wanted to do anything different. They just wanted to buy D&D Beyond. Now again, this is speculation, but I've heard it from many, many sources, and it worked. They bought it. They bought D&D Beyond. It was $142 million. But suddenly they had to follow up. And the next step of that process was, well, we'll change the OGL and make everything prior to today lockdown, irrelevant. You can no longer publish. We own everything. Forget about the OGL. I don't need to rehash it. We've all been there. But long story short, they were just trying to lock down, come out with a new version, and everything going forward was theirs, and everything past no longer could be published or used. That did not work. So now they're stuck making a new version, and they're directionless and rudderless because they don't know what it's supposed to be. And when they announced one D&D, which I said they were going to do, and they're going to come out with, it's still D&D, it's 5th edition. There's no more versions. It's just one version of D&D. It doesn't work that way, okay? People are smart. They know it's a new version. Sales have been very low. They've not been doing nearly as well, because that's always what happens when you announce a new version, because people want to wait to make sure that the books they buy today aren't going to be worthless in a few months from now. So they're waiting to see what it actually is going to be. And right now, I still have no idea what it's going to be. I still don't have any idea what the point of this is. And why do you even... Why are they even following through? I guess they have no choice at this point. That they just have to. Like, they've gone down this road way too far and said too much, and they just have to actually
once
come
you cross the Rubicon, you can't go back. Yeah. But I would say that whenever an edition is made, in general, there's always a lot of factors that have always been at play. When you're talking about the designers who are on the front line with the rules, designers always love tweaking rules. Even the minute a book gets published, designers probably have like several dozen things that are on the docket of like, whenever we get a new edition or something like that, here's what we should change, just even before anything happens. And let alone once it's been 10 years, there's lots of things that build up that designers are always like, that would be great if we could change that, right? But then you always also have well, we can't just change things willy-nilly. People are going to get sick of things being changed. And in 4E, they did errata all the time and did make small design changes a lot, and people did get sick of it and got kind of upset to see it all the time. So eventually, though, the designers who are often champing at the bit for certain ways that things can be adjusted or fixed or tweaked can kind of have what they want. And that usually happens because of market forces in some way or the other. And so eventually market forces push to the point where a new edition of some variety is warranted. Typically, you'll see that because of a sort of, sales are going down. And as you continue making products, there's a trajectory going down. And a new edition is always a gamble in some ways, because you're going to bring in new people but lose some old people who stay with your old edition forever. And it's a gamble that your base goes down. It's usually a gamble that has short-term costs where once you announce it, all of your books are not going to sell well. then a like short to midterm gain, because even no matter how bad your new edition is, or no matter how much people don't like it, they probably will pick up the core of it anyway.
Yeah.
But then the gamble is what happens after that. And it could be a huge win. It could be a significant loss. That's scary for many companies. So they don't usually take that plunge unless they need to. Especially since if you do it all the time, it can definitely seem like a cash grab, or people are like, what's the point of getting our books? They're just constantly making new editions every single year or something like that. So because market forces are different every time, you'll see different changes in editions. And it also depends on where the will of the people are. So 3.5 D&D was pretty similar to 3.0. D&D 4e Essentials was pretty similar to D&D 4e, but 4e was very different than 3.5. 5e was very different than 4e, and Pathfinder 2 was very different than Pathfinder 1, and that's because that's where people were at the time. It depends upon the age of the edition, where the fan zeitgeist is at, and how much it was necessary to also look into tapping into additional markets rather than like appeasing the current market of people. And so it became clear, especially with the bad PR they were getting from OGL, that I think that D&D 2024, which was then being called 1D&D, needed to make it clear that they were supportive of 5e and that they weren't turning their back on it. So it started quickly becoming known as, no, it's just 5e. It's the 2024 update of 5e, and it's going to be really compatible. And they never said it was going to be a complete seismic shift, but they did backpedal a little towards more compatibility and more talking about it being 5e after the OGL thing didn't work, possibly because 5e was in the OGL, and so it would have been tricky to put things that were supposedly 5e but would completely abandon the OGL in that way. Maybe, I don't know, but they said they were going to revoke it. So it's unclear to me. Obviously, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. I don't know, but my guess is it was based on like tactical moves that were done by executives. More so than being completely something that like the like designers and developers and editors who are writing made all of those decisions. Obviously, like I said, there's no design team just about that doesn't have a list of things they would like to change if they could get to make a change. Yeah, it's not like designers are like, no, we never want to change anything. Executives stop telling us to change them. They're usually like, yes, this is great. This is a chance to innovate and to move things forward. But I think I would not be surprised if it's based on like the market and executive decisions.
One thing, by the way, people did say here, oh, why, with so much 5e content, why switch? LOL. Well, take a look at Amazon and look up some of the more popular 5e books. They're not in stock anymore.
Nope.
And I've been noticing that quite a bit. It's like, suddenly you can't find 5e books. And I'm talking about some of the more popular ones. They're not on Amazon. They're gone.
They delisted sorry, not delist. They're not restocking the player's handbook.
It's not even the player's handbook. I was looking for like Mordecai's, some of the more popular books, like the Book of Monsters and all those. They're gone. They're not on Amazon. And I was stunned because I had to do, when I sell my books, I have to do this thing called comps, where you basically take your book and list similar books. And I was going through my books and I was looking up their books because I have to list the price and the ISBN number. And I was like, oh my God, I can't find them. And I was like, they're not even on Amazon. I was like, because they're not listed. They're not for sale anymore. I was suddenly like, wait. And I started to look through all of them. I'm like, oh my God, I don't think they're reprinting these 5e books anymore. I think when they're done, they're done. And they're going to be moving all into 2024. So don't be expecting to play the old 5e books. And they don't put them anywhere. They don't sell PDFs. If you want to play your old 5e books, well, you better get that D&D Beyond subscription ready, baby, because that's the only place you're going to find it.
Yeah, it's not even speculation anymore at this point. It's just what's happening. Like we had thought for a while that they were going to start killing print, and I mean it's what they're doing now. So all right, so now the ball's rolling down the hill. Um, I think there's still going to be people that are like, no, surely not, right? Surely a wall is going to come up and the ball's not going to reach the ball. And I'm like, okay, well, why would you make that assumption? It's like this is what's happening. So going off of the evidence that's being presented here, it looks like they're killing physical. So if that's a thing that bothers you, and you really like 5e, I'd say try to find those books. Hope there's not a house fire. And I think that the smart thing is going to be that the rest of the industry pretty much knows this, and that is keep printing physical. Everybody in the industry is going to keep doing physical because it seems like the only company right now that thinks that this is going to be the best way to go is Wizards of the Coast. Like we have a lot of people that are just traditionalists in this industry that just like the feeling of holding a print book. Of that's like how we play. We like that feeling of gathered around a table. We got these rule books. It's just fun. And it never fails. Whenever you go look at like Wizards of the Coast YouTube channel, some of their most disliked videos are the ones where they're like, here's the new way to play D&D. And it's 4 people sitting around with laptops, not really looking at each other. They're looking at their screens, and there's a weird Black Mirror-y sort of feeling to it. But yeah, but like to me, I guess the video that you had sent me about my own video that you had sent me, Stephen, was for me, the way that I'm seeing it is I think that Wizards of the Coast is trying to make D&D be more than just what it is. D&D is a tactical combat fantasy game, and they're trying to include some elements of it being more of a dramatic role-playing game. Something like I would say Call of Cthulhu is more of like a dramatic one where combat's not like the real core focus of it. Okay. So combat's not like the real core focus of it. And as such, we got the storytelling elements, yada yada yada. But it just seems like there's a lot of what we're seeing in this playtest leaning in on the idea that they want D&D to take up all the air in the room, not just the tactical fantasy game. They want to go for dramatic fantasy now, and it's like I just don't think it needs to.
Well, that's Critical Role for you. I mean, that's what happened. If it wasn't for Critical Role, I don't think. In fact, that's my issue with someone who played D&D First Edition and all the editions after. I mean, it was extremely tactical. I mean, freaking, it came from wargaming. Of course it did.
Yeah.
But when we played 5th edition, it's like, ooh, it's like it wasn't as crunchy as it used to be. And it's fine, but it just wasn't as crunchy. And I think they're going to go even less crunchy. They're just, which is, if you
I don't feel
are.
like the changes of the rules are making it that rules light. But I do agree that they are definitely shifting towards having D&D mean something different. But I go more towards what you were saying in some of our prior episodes, Stephen, where they're shifting towards wanting D&D to mean the brand D&D.
Oh, yeah.
To focus on the brand and the value of the brand of what it is over like getting too worked up about what the actual definition of the product is.
Yeah, in seeing like say I just saw Brent M's comment, Critical Role proves that D&D doesn't have to be just tactical combat, but nothing that they're doing that is the drama of Critical Role is fueled by D&D the game. That is all fueled by the improv and the storytelling of what they're doing at the table.
And they've moved away from D&D heavily.
Yeah.
They're like, they woke up to, hey, we don't need D&D to do what we're doing anymore. We don't need to pay them a percentage of our profits, and we should make our own game and call it that and use that game system. That probably do a lot better. And, and WotC realizes that, and they're worried because You know, a lot of people came to D&D because of Critical Role. I mean, Critical Role sold out Wembley Stadium, for God's sakes. I mean, did you see those pictures? It was insane. I was like, I saw the pictures. I'm like, there's an entire stadium filled with people cheering on people playing Dungeons and Dragons or Critical Role, playing a fantasy role playing game. I was like, what planet are we on? Like, where am I? The only other time
I did
that
not
happened.
see these pictures.
Oh yeah, have you seen those pictures?
What?
I know, it's insane. And it sold out in like, I think it was 10 or 20 minutes. It sold out. It's just amazing. I mean, it's like, oh, sorry, it wasn't Wembley. It was the Annex. Okay.
Yeah,
it's still impressive. It's like 20,000 people. Okay.
I mean, no, Wembley. Wembley, you were right. I see the pictures right here. Yeah. Like, whoa.
Yeah, it's okay. Nuts. But the point is, they are very popular. And this actually was the issue I had with, by the way, Faster Purple Worm Kill, is like, the combat is not the reason that people like Critical Role. That's part of it. They like the characters, the story, the combat as an accent to the overall story plot and storytelling. Faster Purple Worm Kill there was a lot of combat, and it's very clunky. It's very hard to make combat fun and interesting. And the reason Harmon Quest succeeded is because they had freaking cartoons that literally looks like the same people who did Rick and Morty. And I was like, it's Rick and Morty cartoons of people fighting, and it looks great, and it's fun, and it's entertaining, because that's what you're watching. So yeah, Wembley holds 90,000, and this side arena only holds like 10, 20,000. It doesn't matter. If you told me that you would sell out 100 people, if you said, I'm going to charge money for people to play Dungeons and Dragons, and you watch them, 10 years ago, I said you couldn't even sell 100 tickets, even if you're at Gen Con. It's just not something it's just not interesting. I mean, how interesting is it to watch people play D&D? And obviously, it's turned into, all this has turned D&D into something it's not. It's not a tactical combat game anymore. It's trying to be this fantasy.
I mean, it still kind of is, but 5e is also very easy, so you don't need to be as tactical. But
I think it's the spectacle of D&D is something that is unlike what the game itself is. And like, yes, there is whenever we're just talking about D&D, if we're just talking about D&D 5e, to put it like objectively as like simple as possible, it is a tactical war game engine. And people, whenever they are doing the improv bits of, we have this other aspect of the story going on, that engine is not quote unquote being played. Really, it's taking an aside. And if we're just talking about what the game itself is, and we separate, like, okay, so if I think like when I'm playing D&D, it's whenever the rules are creating this moment or whatever we want to say. We're actively engaging with the rules to determine outcomes in the situation or whatever. The role play side of it, the improv side of it, and all that stuff is like that's not really something that the game itself says, here's how you do that. It's not dictating how you do that. It's just saying that, or like in this moment, whenever you turn to your friend, you get this many points if you say these words. No, it doesn't do that. TTRPGs just don't do that. But yeah, it's if we're just looking at like what the game itself is, people play it in many different ways, but the system itself is a tactical war game. And that's what I'm trying to get to the heart of. It's like D&D 5e is a tactical fantasy war game. And
Steven just said that it wasn't. And you're saying that it is. I think that it is. And it has other pillars that attempt to bring in other parts of the game as well. But they're clearly not as high of a percentage of the rules. And you know what? Pathfinder, many others also like that spend more of a percentage of the rules on the combat than on the non-combat.
I think the thing that we're seeing right now is, at least for the future of this D&D 2024 or whatever, is a lot more bleed over of, I think the design team really thinks that every class needs to have as many skill proficiencies or as much of a hardcore like interaction or exploration pillar as something like the rogue or the bard. And they're kind of missing out on the idea that like people just like playing a dude with a sword that hits stuff.
That's what happened to 4th edition, by the way. That's exactly what happened. Everyone played the same because they had to make sure everyone had the same amount of skills and abilities and stuff.
I think that making sure everyone could do something outside of combat is different than the philosophy of 4th edition, where everybody had the same number of per day, per encounter, and per and at will abilities, and it was super duper parallel in structure.
Well, here's my thing. It's okay. I do think it's still a tactical war game, but here's my concern with T&D 2024. Those people, the amount of people who have fun playing a tactical war game versus people who just want to sit around and tell funny, goofy stories. I have a feeling the audience is just a tiny bit bigger that just want to tell stories, and they just don't care that much. And D&D is trying to be everything to everyone, and you can't.
It tries to be a kitchen sink system.
You just can't, and it's trying to do that.